my mom had like boxes in her hands and she said, "I'm taking the kids." And he said, "If you try to take these kids, I'll kill you." And she literally was like, "Bye, kids." And so I don't think he had any interest in the kids. I think it was just, again, a matter of like, you're not going to have any power over anything. And if this is your choice to leave, you will leave with nothing. He would scream to both of us. He would say, "No HENR in this house." And HENR stands for human emotion and reaction. "No HENR in this house." And my sister would go, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry." And it was just like, really, I don't think we ever really got to know or understand or bond with each other. Yeah. I think that he didn't give us a choice but to fight each other like animals. I just remember like squirming so much and like backing up in my chair and crying. And that's a flunk, right? That's a flunk. They were like, "Flunk, knock it off, stop the HENR, and let's pass this drill, okay?" I'm calling him and I'm like, "Dad, why are you like, where are you going? Like, what's going on? Dad," I was like, "talk to me." And he turns around. It's just the craziest thing. He turns around and he goes, "I'm not your dad anymore." He said, "Don't ever speak to me again." And he said, "You need to find your own financial way at this point. I am not your father."
Mine is the only voice.
Wow. What have I been doing?
Lay down my autonomy.
After that, it got very dark very quickly.
Hey guys, my name is Shalise Ansola, and this is Cults to Consciousness, where we discuss leaving high-demand religions or organizations and finding healing and independence through awareness and true individual sovereignty. Of course, as always, if you're only listening and you would prefer to see our faces and support our show in the best free way that you possibly can, go to YouTube instead, where you can interact, you can like, share, comment. We have an amazing community who always rallies around our guests. In fact, you guys are the ones who are all like, "Please get on this guest." And it's been in the making, so I'm excited to finally be here today. We're diving into Scientology, and we've covered this before at length. This story is a little bit different. She was actually outed from Scientology, and we're going to get into all the aftermath of that. And then we're going to do a second episode, so make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss it, where we talk about how she married back into Scientology but found out her husband was part of the Royal Order of Jesters and a Mason, and what that meant, how she has been speaking out against that group and exposing them for a lot of the corruption and illegal things that are going on there. So, big story here. Let's jump right in. Thanks so much for joining us, Relatable Reese.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is really exciting to be here.
Yeah. I think both of our audiences have been pinging us for a while. Hey, you need to have each other on or talk to each other, and I think the stars aligned where we're ready to jump back into Scientology a little bit more. And I know that you're doing a lot of work over on your channel. Guys, if you haven't seen it, you can go check out Relatable Reese's channel, where she dives into Scientology quite a bit. She's been doing it for a couple of years, so you can go check that out after this. But yes, I'm excited to hear more of your story directly from you. And we're going to do a full deep dive today, about 3 hours of your story. So I'm really excited.
Thank you. Yeah, again, it's an honor to be here and share the story. I'm very, very big into being an advocate for any kind of cult recovery or any kind of abuse in general. And I talk about that a lot on my channel.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So let's just dive right in then. Let's give everyone an idea of your childhood and where you fit in the genealogy of Scientology.
So I was born into Scientology. I was a Scientologist for 38 years. And where would you like me to begin? My first memory of Scientology is when I was 4.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much your audience knows, and I'm assuming they know about, like, have you heard of bull bait?
Yes, but
Bull
go ahead
baiting?
and talk about it.
Explain what that is. So it's called a TR, which is a training routine, and it's something that they really, really almost all Scientologists will experience a lot of bull baiting, because it's to train you to become what they call an auditor, which is like a counselor in the real world to help people to go free spiritually And it's something where you want to really get a lot of hours doing that because it desensitizes you to any kind of emotions or reactions. And it's a way to in real terms, now that I'm out of Scientology, I'm learning now about myself. I learn so much every day because I've only been out almost 3 years, how much it desensitized me as a human being and taught me to go past my boundaries and ignore any kind of emotions or red flags. And that's what I would say bull bait really trains a person to do. It really desensitizes a person, and it has done so much damage to me. I started doing that at 4 in my kitchen with my older sister, who is 4 years older than me. My father was our supervisor, which is the person who watches and controls the whole situation. And he was just a very full of rage type of guy and intense about Scientology. My dad is still a Scientologist. He has been a Scientologist since like 1978. So he's been in for a very long time and he took it very seriously. And we did Scientology around the clock. And he was married to our mother. She left when I was 6 and he kept both of us, me and my sister. That is where it kind of started. We joined the cadet org, which is the Scientology Sea Org. I'm sure people have heard of that before.
Mhm.
And I joined the cadet org when I was 7. And I had really bad asthma. So I was on like a breathing, I don't know how much you know about this either, but Scientologists I don't want to speak for everyone, but for my family growing up, we did not really do anything medically at all. Like my mom had to take me to a dental college for like tooth problems because my dad we didn't get vaccinated, any of those things. Didn't see a doctor. We saw a chiropractor if we had like asthmatic issues. And my sister has bad asthma as well. So I had an episode when I was 5 and I had to go to a children's hospital for like a week. I had really bad breathing problems and I was on all kinds of treatments after that permanently. And when I got to the cadet org, they took all of that away from me. They separated us. So I didn't see my dad again or my sister once we arrived at the cadet org when I was 7. So we were placed in different age appropriate rooms with different girls. And I did not see them again for a few months. And it was very strange. It was hot. It was Florida. It was in Clearwater. So I came from Omaha, Nebraska, is where I was living and born, grew up, and so it was very different climate. And I found myself almost immediately. I was very sick, like really sick. Once they took me off my medications, I was vomiting like daily around the clock, and they just kept feeding. This is such a strange memory, but they kept feeding me oranges, like bags. They'd be bringing me like a trash can and bags of oranges and then a special drink called CalMag that L. Ron Hubbard concocted. And it was really upsetting. We had to run a lot. There was like a bunch of running. It was very like, I've not been in the military, but it felt kind of like something like regimented like that. We had a schedule of studying in the morning and then at lunchtime we would feed the adults and then clean the kitchen and then we ate after that. And then we would run and run and run. And I couldn't do it. It was just not something I was able to do with my breathing issues.
Your dad was a member of the Sea Org?
He was. He
Okay.
joined the Sea Org with us after our mother left.
Mm.
And that's just a whole thing. I talk about this a lot on my channel and people ask me a lot, like, how did you deal with that with your mom leaving? Why did your mom leave? I think he was extremely abusive to my mom. I think he was not necessarily physically, but I know my father well enough just from memories. He was very firm. I don't ever remember once him saying, I love you to me or my sister. I don't ever remember a hug. Like there was none of that. So I can't imagine what he was like as a husband, right? To my mom. She tried to take us. And I do recall him saying, if you try to take these kids, I'll kill you. And she left. And she was still a Scientologist. And Scientology threatened to declare her if she tried to come after us and get custody of us.
What?
So the declare policy is so held over your head as a Scientologist. It's very like used as threats, like such as that situation, that I think it really frightened her and she backed off and he had control and power. And that was just the way it was. Again, knowing my father and those memories, it totally adds up with why she would do what she did. It makes sense to me. but it was not easy. And I did not see my mother again. I mean, I saw her probably, I always try to guess this, maybe 4 to 5 times until I turned 18.
Wow.
He really kept us from seeing her. The C work did not work out. So my father is very, I would call like a whale in Scientology. He doesn't really do a lot as far as the steps of like going clear or the OT. I'm sure you like that they call it the bridge, right?
Mhm.
That you climb the bridge and you pay a bunch of money. And he has donated millions of dollars, but he hasn't really participated a lot. And so I think he's highly respected for those reasons, but he's never really done much in Scientology, not a lot of training. My dad's kind of, I would say he does not respect or like authority. So the Sea Org was not really the place for him. So we did not stay there for very long. I think we were there maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months. He woke me up in the middle of the night in my bed in this room full of girls. And he said, "Shh, we're leaving." And I came out of my room and, this is always kind of a rough memory for me. I came out of my room and my sister was there and I hadn't seen her. And I hadn't seen my dad. And I just was so confused by that. And, he had a '67, GTO Pontiac convertible, and we had driven it there. And I don't know how he still had it. I don't know how we got out, but we got into that. It was in the middle of the night. And he put the top down and I just laid in the back and cried, and we just drove back to Nebraska, and it was just so strange, and he put me back into, public school, and I saw my friends again, and it was just the weirdest, time, and at that point, I think I was 7 when we got back. My sister decided to move in with our mom, and he allowed it. He this is hard. My sister is 4 years older. He was more obvious about how much he disliked her than he was with me. And I have a baby book that my dad wrote for me only. He wrote it, and he wrote in it from when I was born until I turned 16. And he wrote so much in this book about Scientology, and it was almost like a journal for him about like their just how he felt about Scientology and his children. And it was clear even in the book. It's very sad. It was clear in the book even like he would compare us and he would use Scientology terms and he would say things like, "I'm so impressed by you and your confront on planet Earth and how you can ride a bike and fall and skin your knees and you don't have a problem, but your sisters just can't confront anything. She took 18 hours to be born, but not you, kid. You came out in 45 minutes and you're just so good with the world." And it's really awful. It's really awful. It makes me very
Jeez.
sad for her.
Yeah.
Um, and so she left when we got back and she moved in with our mom. To be honest with you, Shalise, I don't know a lot of her story because I never was raised with my sister again. Thanksgiving was what's today? 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and that was our second Thanksgiving we've ever had together that I can recall. So I'm just now seeing her for the first time in my life. Like, we don't know each other super, super well. I don't know a lot about her background or past. I know that she joined the Sea Org right after she moved in with my mom in Kansas City. My mom moved to Kansas City and got remarried. And so we kind of were split apart at that point. And I would like to share this too. I say this on my channel a lot. I wish I was close to my sister. I'm not super close. It's not her fault. It's not my fault, right? Like we were just raised differently. And I think that that bull bait was really tough for us because I think that it was like putting like fighting animals, like dog fighting. Like I think that making us do that when I started at 4 and she was 8, you know, she's screaming at me in this kitchen going like, "You're fat, you're ugly, mom hates you. Like, I wish you were dead." Like you have to say the meanest most harmful or try to make the person laugh or whatever you can do to kick them off. Like, you know, bull bait is you have to sit there comfortably and be a total zombie. And the coach is the person, you're the student, and the coach is the person who is bull baiting you while the supervisor, our father, is standing there going harder, meaner, like say something, you know, you're not getting a reaction. So, you know, I remember crying so many times during that. And he would scream to both of us. He would say, "No HENR in this house." And HENR stands for human, emotion, and reaction. And that was like one of the number one things he would say to us as girls. He would say, no HENR in this house. And my sister would go, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And it was just like really, I think it was, I don't think we ever really got to know or understand or bond with each other. I think
Yeah.
that he didn't give us a choice but to fight each other like animals. And so I think to this day, it's just so awkward at this point.
Hmm.
I'm 41 and I don't know how to get any of that back. I just think that really, I think one of the biggest things, there's so many things I think now, right? Because I'm almost 3 years out, and I often think to myself, is that me? Do I really feel that way, or did they tell me that's how I feel? Is that Scientology? Like, is that my programming? I'm trying to really unlearn so many things at once, and I do it live on my channel. It's like a live journal every day. One of the biggest things I think I've recognized is, as an adult woman now from that bull bait, it teaches you, absolutely, Scientology doesn't allow you to bond with anyone. You're very isolated, but also it taught me not to trust boundaries or my own emotions about things, because you're rewarded for you're rewarded for putting up with that. Just to share this on the bull bait, a good example of that. I was 7 when I went to the Church of Scientology in Kansas City when we got back from the cadet org. And that was our closest church, was Kansas City. There was not one in Omaha. And it was a 3-hour drive, and we went, and I was on a course it was a children's communication course, I think. And I was doing bull bait with an adult man. And I want to say he was maybe around 50, 45. I don't know. It could have been 55. And he was in this course room, and there's a lot of people bull baiting in this course room, but mainly adults. There weren't a lot of little kids like me. They would start the bull bait session. The supervisor was there, and I was to remain calm and no reaction. And he would get between my legs to mimic performing oral sex. And I just remember like squirming so much and like backing up in my chair and crying. And that's a flunk,
Oh
right?
my
That's a
God.
flunk. And so I remember they were like, flunk, knock it off, stop the HENR, and let's pass this drill, okay? Like, knock it off. Let's pass. And I was like, okay. And so you have to do it over and over and repeat the same thing that caused the reaction until it's what's called flat. It's a button now. So you have to flatten that. So we went on and on and on for that for probably 30 minutes, to where I finally didn't flunk and didn't react anymore. And that's absolutely crossing every boundary and red flag and gut alarm instinct going off, right? And so once you passed it, great shot, well done. You're rewarded for that. So let's go to the next level now. So like you're a little more dead inside, right? Like now you're a little more numb to the world and what's okay and what's not. And I was 7. And so I think about those things now with my audience on my channel, and I'm so grateful for them because we work through this stuff all the time, and they give me all the grace in the world to realize things and see things in a new light. And I just think, Shalice, that it's so incredibly dangerous. That bull bait alone, that's just a smidge. I mean, I've had thousands of hours of it at this point, but that bull bait alone is like one of the biggest things I think that really changes you, rewires you as a human being. If you do that to someone that much at such a young age to start out of the gate. If you want to go be a Scientologist, do it as an adult, but don't do that to kids. Like I always say that. It's your choice, but don't do that to children.
They are taking away your humanity. They're trying to create emotionless, compliant robots that serve the company and not themselves, not even close. For all of those adults in the room to watch what happened to you and not step in and say, oh, that's a little too far. She's only 7. Maybe we dial it back.
Right.
For them to just sit there and say, yeah, she has to figure this out. I mean, that's one of my biggest complaints about Scientology. I feel like maybe one of the main ones is the way that they treat children, because like you're saying, if you want to do this as an adult with a fully formed brain, with an understanding of the world, then go for it. But do not put children through this. They are not developmentally ready or capable to handle situations like this. Even
Right.
adults, even if an adult man did that to an adult woman, that's still not okay. That's still sexual assault. That's still not,
No question.
yeah. And so it's just, oh my gosh, that breaks my heart and it blows my mind that all of the adults there were like, she's just gotta figure this out, and they allowed it to continue. I'm so sorry. What a horrible memory to have to go back and try and untangle and see how, and what you're doing is incredible, being able to go and look at that memory objectively and see, how did this affect me through my life? How did this change the course of my life? How did this make me shut down my gut instincts? How did this make me compliant to future abusers? Because of course that's going to affect you.
That's a great point. I never thought of that. I'm gonna have to hold that in my head for a show. Uh, Being compliant to future abusers, because it
Yeah.
really was. And you make a great point too. Even if that were an adult woman, I don't care if she's 18 or 70, she doesn't consent to that either, I guarantee you.
No.
It's not okay to do that to anybody, man or woman.
Yeah.
It's humiliating, and it's, again, I'm in therapy now, and I promote that so much. I think it's so healthy, and it's huge because Scientologists are anti-complete therapy, any kind of mental health, and I push it big time. I believe in it very much. I've been in therapy for years, and that's one of the biggest sessions I had recently. It was not 8 weeks ago maybe that I realized how much that is a he said to me, and he very rarely does this. He wants me to do the work, right? He doesn't do it for me, and I love that about him. But he said, "Oh, wow, the 7-year-old thing," because I don't hardly talk about this, believe it or not, in therapy. I talk more about I always say that. I go, "We don't really go back." He goes, "No, you're more present day stuff." And I said, "Yeah." And I shared that story with him. And he said, "That is a learned freeze response." He
Mhm.
said, "It makes all the sense in the world now why, if someone is ugly to you, disrespectful, shouts, screams, abusive, whatever it is, you don't do anything. I don't talk. I say nothing." My ex-husband used to scream at me and he'd go, "Stop using your bull bait on me." Because I would just do like what, that's what you're doing in bull bait is someone screaming and spitting and doing whatever they're doing at you. And you're just supposed to, and I didn't realize I was doing it. But my therapist said that is such a horrible thing to humans because it teaches you to go way past any boundaries. It teaches you to deaden your emotions so you can't defend yourself. You're
Yeah.
frozen, like you're freezing. So, yeah, you make a great point about that. It's just, that's one of the many tactics in Scientology, but doing that to, especially, I have a child. He just turned 16 last Monday, and I have such a hard time these days because that's where a lot of it really got bad for me at that age, and I just think I'm so grateful that I'm no longer in this. He would have been joining the Sea Org this week. Recruiters would have been at my house the second he turned 16 to come get him. That's still really hard for me to think about,
Yeah.
but I'm so grateful that he's not gonna have to endure any of that. He's gonna have a regular, whatever that means for him, life where I don't have to worry about I'm not gonna see him anymore because he's gonna be gone in the Sea Org or any of those things. I will get to watch him succeed in whatever that means,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to have anything to do with the control of Scientology. It's really exciting for me that I may have gone through some things, but I'm so grateful that I know he's not going to going forward.
I know that feeling. I know that feeling as a mother, and I just did a personal episode, which we don't do often, where Jonathan interviewed me, and I talked about my troubles and my traumas, my CSA, and how becoming a parent, becoming a mother to a daughter, watching her grow up and grow through those stages where I was abused is so confronting and so difficult, but at the same time, the overwhelming gratitude that you're expressing right now of, I'm so glad that I can protect her and
Yes.
do it differently, or at least do everything I can to try and protect her in a way that Mormonism shielded me and maybe shielded my mom from seeing different things. Or, I mean, I don't blame my mom at all for what
Yeah.
happened. It was my dad. But I understand what you're saying as far as understanding how you can provide such a different life for your child and how emotional that can make you. I think that's the only time in the interview I broke down and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh." Because it is really
Yes.
hard, and it's hard and it's beautiful at the same time when you can have that realization and go, "It's going to be different for my child," and actively making that choice and actively doing the work and going to therapy and understanding your past so you can better understand
Yes.
yourself and be a better parent. All of that hinges on the awareness of first going, I was in a cult. I was in a high control group. I didn't have choices. I was wired this certain way to react or not react to the world. And these are the consequences. And so, even just doing that work is so difficult. So, I totally understand where you're coming from. And I want to talk more about what a fever dream of going away to Florida and then getting put back into a semi normal life. Was your dad punished for that, for leaving? Because I know that's a really big deal, leaving the Sea Org. I mean, what happened?
So it's a great question. I think the more money you give, the less you're punished for things. It's kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I have this baby book, right? So it's got he writes in it, and it's so cut and dry. It's very to the point. And he says, like, so your mom left, we're going into the Sea Org, we're gonna go OT and go free. And it's just this weird, like, change change of story. Like, we're now your mom's gone. And then the next page is like, well, we're back. It didn't work out. He says, my company is still good. He owns his own business. And he's like, and our house didn't sell. It stayed up for sale. So we're just back in the house. It's very just cut and dry. And I don't think he got into trouble, probably because he was just, not to this day, of course, but up to recent, like years ago when I was a Scientologist, I have nothing to do with my dad. And he disconnected from me when I was 16. But even after that, my maiden name is Wally, and Sea Org members would come, or like they call it the Flag World Tour. People would come all the time to the Kansas City org from other places, and they'd introduce themselves. And I would say, I'm Reese Wally. And they'd go, Wally, you're not related to Gene, are you? And I'd go, yeah, he's my dad, which was such a bullet, right? Because like I didn't have anything to do with him. And they'd go, oh, I love your dad. And it's like, because he's like, it's obvious to me. I'm like, he hasn't done anything. He's just written a lot of checks. He's given a lot, massive amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we just love those guys who do that, right? And they get a pass. I don't think he gets into trouble. I mean, I've written a lot of reports on my dad and complained about him for decades in Scientology, and nothing ever came of it. And to me, it's like, what other reason is there? We don't want to upset him, right? Like he's a big donor. He's a huge donor. And that's probably, if I had to guess, would be the case for a lot of different cults, right? Like the more
Yeah.
you are that big fish, the less we want to put pressure on that person.
That makes sense. There would be about 5 or 6 years then before they recruited you into the Sea Org, right? Was that time fairly normal as far as going to public school and maybe just doing a class here and there, or were you still very heavily invested in Scientology?
So when we got back, you mean from the cadet
Mhm.
org? But before okay, so I never went back into the Sea Org. I joined staff
Okay.
in Kansas City. So yeah, we got back from the cadet org, and then almost immediately my sister moved. She left. And so it was just me and my dad in Omaha. I had a bunch of animals. I'm a huge animal lover. And I would, I went to public school again. I was told not to have friends, like, don't participate in anything. We're very sheltered from the outside world because our dad told us, like, they're evil, right? Like, don't be friends with people like that. They're on psychiatric medications and you can't be around friends. And that was isolating because there was no Scientologists in Omaha. We didn't have an organization in Omaha. So I walked to school every day. I walked home every day. And I did the same routine my mom would do after she left. I made chicken and stars Campbell's soup and a half of peanut butter and jelly. And I would just like sit in my little chair. And my dad was gone usually like 3 to 7 days at a time. He would leave. the house. And he owned a business, but he also was a big pool player. And he would be in like tournaments around the state or other states, and he would go like hustle pool. And so he would leave, and he would leave a couple $100 on a table, and just, I would walk up to, it was called the Town and Country, like a gas station, and get different stuff to drink and eat, and walk to school. And until that was from about 7 until I joined staff right when I turned 14.
Oh my God, just left you unattended, no other responsible adults checking in on you.
No, I mean, I didn't have anybody else. My mom was in Kansas City at that point, and he really kept me apart from her. But I mean, he was home. He would come home, but he was just so, I remember every time he would come home, I would feel that like, I really have learned this through working through things on my channel. I overly, I'm aware of it now, so I don't do it so much, but like I would overly want validation and attention from like masculine people in my life. I would cope that way because I remember he would come home when I was like 8 or 9, and I'd be like, "Dad," and he'd be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I just got here. Can you give me some space?" Like he would just like he did not. He was not touchy. He was not. He was just. I don't think he wanted kids. I don't think he liked kids. It was very clear, like just you're do the LRH stuff and don't touch me and leave me alone. And yes, he would just come and go. And I think he probably dated a lot of different women. He didn't really bring them back to our house. I think he would go to wherever they were. He was wealthy. He, like I say, I mean, we weren't, he provided for me, but I was alone pretty much. That's where I really coped, I think, with animals. He didn't care. I think he was happy that that kept me busy. I had like a ferret and a boa constrictor, guinea pig, cat, dog, like you name it. I just would come home and I would be so excited to see my animals. I mean, you have no idea. I was so excited to just like, I made my sandwich. I'd sit there and like I'd have a snake around my neck and a ferret like eating off my sandwich. And that was like my thing. It was my friends, to be honest. Those were my friends. They were really, really important to me. And to this day, I have 5 animals now. So
Mm,
I love animals. They make me feel safe and warm.
yeah. Well, unconditional love too. There's no judgment. Animals are just very clear. If you give them love and attention, most likely they're going to reciprocate that, I guess, depending on the animal. I don't know about snakes, but
Yeah,
but why do you think he was so hell bent on keeping you then if he didn't really have any desire to be your father?
that's a good question. I mean, I would guess what you would probably guess here, and you probably know more about this than me just because I'm discovering so many new things, but I would guess control. I think my dad, I remember my mom saying, I mean, I remember being on his left leg, like holding onto his leg. It was nighttime, and my sister was on his right leg, and my mom had like boxes in her hands, and she said, "I'm taking the kids." And he said, "If you try to take these kids, I'll kill you." And she literally was like, "Bye, kids." And so I don't think he had any interest in the kids. I think it was just, again, a matter of like, you're not going to have any power over anything. And if this is your choice to leave, you will leave with nothing. And so, I mean, that's my guess. I don't know if you could think of anything else, but just I think people who do anything that's abusive like that, what's the source of that? Right? Like, I
Mhm.
think it's to have control and power over you. I really promote that now more than ever in my life and on my channel is like, you're not going to have power over me in this. Like, I'm going to make my own decisions. I'm going to stand firm on what I believe, and I'm not going to reach externally for what do you think? What do you think? What's your opinion? So I can make a decision. I really try to be super self aware of like, I have a bad habit of that, like reaching for that validation from people because I probably was so alone and isolated. And I think he wanted everything that way. I think it was
Mm.
by design. I think it raised broken people and needy people, right? Like I grew up needy, very needy for attention with just relationships, I would say.
Well, and that makes sense. I mean, you're saying needy as if it's a bad thing, but literally your needs were not being met. So you were just being baseline a child who had expectations of connection because that's the only thing children want is connection. Their little brains say, if I don't get connection, I will die without my caregiver.
Sure.
And so it makes sense that you were just wanting baseline, just baseline affection, baseline validation,
Sure.
anything. And Yeah, I'm sure that translated into future relationships.
It did. And so that's where I think that's normal as a child, of course, to want those things.
Mhm.
Then my sister leaves and I was separated from her. So like I became probably more needy, right? For some sort of attention and don't get that attention at school. Like you can't have any friends. So it just became, I think, a bad place though for how to shape an adult woman, right? Like it's like I'm not really working with any solid healthy building blocks and boundaries and coping. I think that I confused for a long time anything for attention. Like I would just, I realize it now, but I just think it shapes very broken adults. And you don't just heal from that. I think you have to actually really do the work. And I'm loving doing the work. Like I love finding things out about myself and those memories. It's important to talk about those things because it also may touch somebody else and inspire somebody else that goes, I never thought of that. That's my favorite part of my channel, and it always will be, is someone goes, I get so many emails that go, I now am seeing a therapist because of you, because of your
Mm.
journey. Or I realized something that I've been working through for decades. It's really touching to me that people around the world get inspired by that. So I think it's important to keep going and talk about it and
Yeah.
do the work. You're not going to heal just because you're out of the cult, right? Like you have to actually put some things together. These were the cards we were dealt, but we have to fix it now
Yeah.
as these adults. You can't bleed on people that didn't cut you. So I think he's the source, and I think it was just a power grab.
That hole that he was clearly not filling with any sort of love and attention and validation, did you seek that in Scientology?
That's a great question. It's hard to answer that because people are so like him. Everybody's really, really cold. And Scientology is big on the snitch culture. So, like everybody, that's the one thing I miss about Scientology, honestly, is coming out into the real world and meeting new people. I find a lot of people are not like authentic or who they are, who they say they are. Like I'm trying to navigate friendships. I want friends so bad for the first time. I've never had friends. Really, truly, I haven't. And I'm putting value on friendships for the first time. And I'm like, I want some female friends. Like that sounds like something I would enjoy. But it's hard because in Scientology, it's very clear cut. Like I would lean into that, yes, for attention or like trying to build a relationship. But the second you confide in someone, they write a report on you and hand it to you and give it to the ethics officer and whoever else. And so it's like, oh, so like it's very conditional and it's like so your question's good, but I don't know how much I was reaching because I knew the stakes. Like, you know, I can only be halfway through with you like in a relationship because I know what you're going to do to me. You're going to tell on
Yeah.
me, whether it be my parent or a child and husband, wife, they all tell on each other. So it's I have to say though, I kind of miss that because it's like stabbing from the front. At least you know what you're dealing with. It's a little weirder for people to be like, let's be friends, and then they stab you in the back. It's kind of weird. It's a weird dynamic I've never really experienced.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is because a lot of times when things are going really poorly in a high control group or a cult, the person usually has a few options, either leave and lose everything or double down because it makes the pain worth it. So that's why I wondered if
Mhm.
you leaned into Scientology as a way of being like, okay, I gotta be all in. If I was raised not to have my feelings, emotions, and reactions, then maybe I just need to be a better Scientologist and it'll all make sense to me.
Yes, I would say definitely doubled down. I was I felt very much, I think, to this was a bad combination. I just realized this in real time. I think that the only way I could cause a smile in my father or any kind of like if I got a well done, he'd say well done, was me doing something in Scientology. It's
Right.
the only time. Like I couldn't do something at school. I couldn't accomplish anything anywhere else. If I did, as a matter of fact, he'd go, "Well, why can't you do that at the org on church, like at the church? Why can't you can do it here, but you can't do it." Like he would actually make it worse. So I learned right away, like, oh, so if I pass that bull bait and I let that man do that, like then my dad goes, all right. All right. So I think I worked even harder for that, even though I didn't want to do it. I had no
Yeah.
interest in it. Like it wasn't something, it felt wrong in my gut from
Mhm.
a young age. I think I tried to please him as much as I could to get that recognition, that attention from him. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I wondered if that might have been the case because it seems like that was the only thing that actually mattered to him was Scientology, especially if he's giving so much of his money and basically
Mhm.
sacrificing his children in the process. Let's talk about those
Yeah.
adolescent years and when you started coming into your teenage years and
Mhm.
puberty hits, what's going on and what's happening in your life?
Yeah, so, I made it to ninth grade. I finished ninth grade in Omaha, and that was my first year of high school. And, that summer my birthday is in July, so, that summer I was 13, when school got out, I went down by myself to the Church of Scientology in Kansas City to do some real stuff, like, on my own. He paid for a big auditing package, you'd call it, and I got a bunch done, and I came back, like, midsummer. I had just turned 14. A recruiter came to our house from Kansas City and said, "Did you love that?" And I said, "Yeah, I made a ton of friends, like, I really enjoyed it. I got to connect with people." And she said, "Well, what if you came and joined staff? Like, you could be with us all the time. Like, you could be with your friends." And I was like, "That's a great idea." Like, yes, I found my people. So I did. I joined staff, and, my dad, I think, of course, was more than fine with that, and I moved to Kansas City. I said, "My only hang up is, like, my animals. Like, I have all my animals. Like,
Mm.
can I come back and forth? Like, can I?" And they were like, "Oh, yeah. Once you, like, get through the first training program and all that, like, sure, no problem." And I did it. I signed the contract. It was a 2.5-year contract, and, I think I wasn't 14 yet. I might have just been 13 still. I think this was in June, and, I came down and moved in with 2 adults that were married, and they had a daughter that was 5 years younger than me, who never went to school. She'd never been in school. She was just going to the org every day to train under L. Ron Hubbard, and we became really close, she and we slept on sleeping bags in the floor of the house. Like, it was just such a strange situation from where I had come from, but she became a close friend, and, it became clear to me probably a few weeks in, like, how much of a mistake I had made. I think, it was very violent, like, people threw things all the time out of just, like, fits of rage. There's a lot of angry Scientologists, and, like, no one's, like, griefy or, like, apathetic. They're angry, like, that's like, my dad was that way. He never was, like, sad. It was always just, like, "Get it done," like, just anger, strange. I immediately said, "I wanna go back." Like, I wanna go back to my animals. I miss my animals. And they were like, "You gotta get through this course." And I got through the course, and I called my dad and I said, "I wanna come home and see them." And he said, "I got rid of them."
Man, I knew you were gonna say that, and I didn't want that to be the case. Oh, that's
Yeah, you just
heartbreaking.
and so I just think I was in over my head, Shalice. Like, I was so stupid. Like, I didn't realize. I think I had starry eyes, and I thought, like, I was gonna be
Yeah.
able to do this and that, and I still really, I'm so mad at myself for that. I just really was. I had a deep relation that was my those were my family. Like, to me,
Yeah.
it was my family, and I felt really bad about it, and I still do. I don't really know what happened to him. I don't know if he let him out or just put him in a shelter or whatever he did. I don't know. I don't really wanna know, to be honest, but,
Yeah.
so that was the start of it, and I, about a month later, I had a lot of friends, and there was a guy that was on staff, and he was 10 years older than me. I had turned 14, he was 24, and he would drive me home because we would work about 12 to 14 hours a day, and so he worked at night, I worked all day, and he would drive me home. He really liked me and I liked him, and, we became close, and it happened really fast, but there was, a night that he drove me back to his place instead of taking me home. I really liked him. I mean, I have to say that I really liked him. I felt safe with him, and, until I don't know, I still have to work through this emotionally, I think. I have a hard time with it. I was sitting on his couch, and I was nervous, and I'd only kissed a boy one time. Like, I'd never done anything. It happened once. He was a senior in high school before I left for Kansas City, and I was not comfortable. Like, I wasn't I hadn't been to the rodeo. I didn't know, and he just said, "I really like you." And I said, "I really like you too." And he started kissing me, And he took my hand and he took me upstairs. And I think this is stuff that I haven't fully worked through because it's hard for me.
Yeah.
But we went upstairs and we were together for the next 2 years. He was my boyfriend. My last husband, I was telling this story to, and up until like I think I was 36 when I told him that story, and he said, "That's absolutely statutory, right?"
Yeah.
And I said, "No, it isn't." Like, I got really upset, and he said, "Yes, it is." He said, "You were 14?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "That is absolutely SA." And I
Yeah.
said, "No, it's not. I consented." Like, he was my boyfriend. It's odd. It's embarrassing. I'm sweating. My hands are sweating right now. I'm embarrassed because I th we are adults. There are no children in Scientology. It's very well stated that children are what we call big beings in small bodies. Everybody's the same age. Everybody is 76 trillion years old, according to L. Ron Hubbard. I was smoking cigarettes. Like, I felt very much like an adult, and I did not realize it until I'm 41, 5 years ago, that like that was inappropriate.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it that way. He was with me for 2 years and I just didn't. So everybody knew, my dad knew. My dad wrote about it in our baby book. He was like, "You're with Shane." And he said, "You've been with him since you joined staff and you guys want to get married." And I mean, it was very well documented that like nobody was hiding it.
Yeah. Right. Well, just what you were talking about, how there are no children, according to Scientologists, combined with the fact that this man knew what he was doing. He was old enough to know better, regardless of, I mean, there are still laws, and I'm sure he had to have been aware at least a little bit of what the law says when it comes to that. And so I feel like maybe we can give him a little bit of a pass, but ultimately not, because he knew what he was doing. You were a child, children cannot consent, and he groomed you into this relationship to make it feel consensual.
I think you're right. And also, I give him less of a pass because he wasn't born in.
Oh,
I think he had been
well,
in for like 3 years.
no
Like,
pass.
he wasn't.
No pass
Okay.
then.
Okay.
Absolutely
Okay.
not. No,
You're
no,
you're gonna
no.
make a ruling on this.
Yeah, that everyone in the comments is going to agree with me. I know it. No pass. If he was born and raised in it, maybe, because there's a lot going on there. We've talked to people who are raised in Scientology, but if he was 3 years in, he literally knew that he could get away with it because of the rules. He was using Scientology to his advantage to take advantage of a child.
Okay. I agree with you on that. I feel slightly confused still because I've heard since I've had my channel, so many people, beautiful people have come forward to me privately, even openly on the channel, but they've shared some very deep, dark stories with me of what's happened to them because they feel safe sharing it with me since I've shared mine. And I just always feel like mine is so much better. I hate to say that, but I've seen and heard the stories of like forced
Yeah.
situations, right? Where you were terrified. Like, I never felt that way. And I'm grateful for that. That at least I didn't have to go through that. And I hate those stories. And they make me so sad. And I guess I just really was under the impression that like I was an adult. And I
Yeah.
remember saying that to Jeff. He was like, that's not and I said, "Yes, it is. What are you doing?" I was like, "He was my boyfriend." And so it was confusing.
Yeah. Well, I get that. And that makes complete sense. In fact, we just did an entire live with someone who was same as you, groomed into these relationships with older men from a different group. And she now talks to parents about how to talk to kids about SA or CSA, and saying that you need to get it through to children to help them understand that CSA will not feel like abuse most of the time. It most of the time won't hurt. Most of the time their body will feel good, but their stomach will not feel good. And that's okay, to help them understand it doesn't have to be violent to be abuse, because the
Yes.
people who are doing it understand that if it is violent, chances of compliance from the victim again are probably very low. So if you groom them into thinking that they're okay with it, then they can continue the abuse without any resistance. And so it's not uncommon. I've talked to so many people on this channel, people in Amish, people in other groups who have had the exact same thing where they're like, yeah, I looked forward to my time with my abuser because it was the only love and attention
Yeah.
that I was getting. It was something I needed, that affection, I needed that connection, and they were providing that to me, not understanding that they were being taken advantage of.
That is such a great point. That really helps for me to understand what you just said. Like, I looked forward to him. Yeah, he was nice to me. He was kind to me. He drove me around. He bought my cigarettes. I I could see how that would it's yeah. And by the way, whoever you're talking about, I'm glad that she does that with children, teaches them and parents. I do that with my son. I always say this on my channel. It's been age appropriate. He's 16 now, but since he was young, I have talked to him about just like consent
Yeah.
in our bodies and like how important that is, and touching people, people touching you, like it's never okay.
Mhm.
Just things like that. I think because you're right. I mean, I was 14. Like I wasn't fully developed even just mentally, even though I thought I was, right? And I was treated like I was and expected to be in that. That's not the case. I have a teenager now. They're not fully developed.
Yeah, and that's when you
I
can
can't get him
see it,
to
right?
help
Like
me with
when
the dishwasher.
exactly, hindsight, because I remember feeling that way at
Yeah.
14. I'm like, "I'm so grown," and then you look back at 14-year-olds as an adult and you're like, "That's a 14-year-old? They're basically a child."
Yeah.
I mean, they are a child. It's
They're
insane.
totally a child. They're children.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
yeah,
you're right, like, just raising one now, I mean, he's super intelligent, but, like, he's not a fully formed adult. No
yeah.
way.
Exactly. Their prefrontal cortex that is in charge of logical thinking and impulse
Yeah.
control is way underdeveloped. So you can't expect
Way
them,
not even close.
yeah, you can't expect them to make logical, sound decisions like a full-grown adult would because they are incapable.
Totally, totally, and that's I think being a mother, like we've talked about, is really puts things into perspective,
Yeah.
right? Like, when my ex-husband said that, I was like, "No, it's okay, it was okay," and then I started thinking about my son's name is Huxley, and I started thinking about Huxley, and I was like, if a woman at 24 did anything to him when he was 14, I would burn everything to the ground, like, I would be
Exactly.
happily go to prison for that, like, happily. So, it really kind of shifted and shook me very much emotionally to have to kind of process that.
Mhm.
And it's harder, I think, Shalice, because he was so kind to me.
Mhm.
It's got that weird, like, dirty, it's like, "But wait, he was so nice." That's so creepy, and just the whole thing. So but that went on for 2 years. Like, I flew to, the Saint Hill organization in London and went to a big party there, and while I was on staff, and my dad donated a bunch of money in my name to go accept the award from David Miscavige, and I did all of that, and I was really trying, I think, so hard to impress my people around me and just, like, try to get, like you said, that validation. So I was doubling down, right? Like, I was trying very hard to, like, keep my statistics up, and I was in charge of I was basically the ethics officer of the organization, which is like a lo this is sad, but a lot of adults can't be in that section. It's like the HR department because you have to be qualified for it, and a lot of kids are qualified because they haven't violated things yet that maybe some adults have, like doing drugs or there's just certain specific requirements, and so I was in charge of that section and, like, the, ethics reports, and I was punishing people, and it was very strange, and I was getting
Yeah.
punished a lot. I got in trouble myself quite a bit, and, I was just going to, I'm being mindful of our time. I was going to tell you about just the story how I lost my dad. I was 16 and, I still had my boyfriend, but I had 2 different guys that one of them was a new guy that came from, like, I think a Texas org maybe, and I didn't know him that well. He was 31, and he had we were at a gathering one night and, of Scientologists. No one drinks or anything, but it was like a Friday night, and we all got together, and it was a younger crowd, and he, put my hand on him at the party, and I said, "Oh, I'm not doing that," and he just said, "Oh, I must have misunderstood," but we slept in the same room on the ground of this, living room in this home. And the next morning, Dan, the guy he's the highest trained, I think he still is in Kansas City. He's a big deal. Dan O'Connor, he was at the party and he reported it. And prior to that, I had worked in my office and there was a gentleman outside of my office named Tom. And this is like, I'm telling you this because it pertains to what I'm about to say and I'm trying to put it together. Tom was on staff with me all this time. He was a great guy. I really liked him. I think he was around 50 and he was the Treasury Secretary. And I was filing in my office. I was filing reports and my back was to the door and he flipped me. It was so weird because like he'd never done anything before. And he flipped me around and shoved me against this cold filing cabinet and like just had like his hand went up my excuse me, my shirt and he was kissing me. It all happened so fast. And I shoved him off of me and I immediately slammed the door, locked it. I reported him. I'm telling you that because it's kind of what I'm going into. I was in charge of this kind of seems off what I'm saying, but I don't know how else to put it. The next thing that happened pertains to this. I was in charge of I don't know if you've heard of this, a telex machine. It's like an
Mm-mm.
old school. It's like a very outdated way of sending communications, like probably like prior to fax machines. And I had to learn how to use this thing. And it was to send in statistics up lines to the higher organizations. And we have to report those every Thursday. And Dan, I had to stay up all night and learn how to use this thing. Somebody else had been doing it and they left. So it was on me. And I really didn't want to learn it. The manual was like this thick and I had to study it till 2 a.m. And I just was terrified. I did not want to do it. I did not know how to use it. I've always been intimidated by the telex machine. And I'm 16. And Dan is a close friend of mine at this point. My dad writes about it in my baby book. He's like, Dan is your favorite staff member. You guys are super close. Dan was about 26, I think. And he's super trained and he's a big deal. Like he trained at Flag. He's a highly trained auditor and he's kind of one of the in charge type of people of the organization. And he comes into my office and he says, I need you to send this, get it done. It needs to be done now. And I said, okay. And I was terrified and I sent it and I thought it had gone through and it didn't. And he found this out. I didn't know. And he comes barreling into my office and he's screaming, right? And Dan had never treated me this way. I'd known Dan for years. He'd never treated me this way. I'd seen him treat other people this way. He'd never done it to me. I'd never been abused physically ever. Like I saw it, but it just hadn't happened to me. And he grabbed me and he was like shaking me and he's screaming, right, about the fact that this didn't get done. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I thought I did it. And he's like screaming and he slaps me in the face and he picks up a fax machine and he hit me in the side of the head with it. And this is such a tough story for me. I fell to the ground. Like I can remember everything that happened here. It's so wild how clear it is, but I fell to the ground and like the back of my head was up against a wall. So I was like laying flat, but my head was kind of almost like the wall was a pillow. And he got on top of me and he was like, Dan was a large man. He was just very tall. He's just a big guy. And he sat on top of my stomach and he was screaming and like grabbing my shoulders and he put his hand on my throat. Like he wasn't really choking hard, but it was like enough that he was trying to really make an impression on me. And I was like screaming and this is kind of in the back of the building and his mother showed up with my senior, my boss, Liz. And Dan's mother was, we always said, the most hothead person of the whole building. She was the most abusive. I had never seen anybody throw more chairs than his mom. I mean, she was a real scary woman, very much like just fits of rage a lot. And his mother was standing kind of over us. And my boss, Liz, was next. And Liz, I lived with. She was the person that I moved in with who recruited me when I was 14. And his mother, I was like, get him off me. I was like trying to scream, but he was really heavy. And I'm screaming, get him off of me. And his mom like nudged Liz and she goes, look at her. She's effing out to lunch. Like screamed it like it was me. And this must have all taken place. I'm sure it felt like 10 minutes, but it was probably like 3 minutes is my guess. And he got off of me and he was all sweaty and red and he like wiped himself off and he walked out and I slammed the door and locked it. And I was so like, I could not believe what just happened. Like there was stuff all over the floor. I called my dad in Omaha and I was like, could not talk. I was trying to catch my breath and all I could get out. I remember just saying, I was like, he hit me. I was like, he hit me. I was like freaking out. And my dad was like, what? He said, stay where you are. I'll be there in 3 hours. And it was such a moment for me. I was like, thank God, like I'm going to get out of here. I just wanted to get out. And my dad shows up and he calls my office and he says, I'm in the parking lot. And I go running down these, it's a big set of marble stairs. It was like 2 flights of stairs. And I'm just bawling when he gets there. And he goes, he wouldn't even like give me the time of day. He was like, take me to Dan. I just want to get to Dan. He was like, don't. And I was like, but I was like really trying to get his attention, I guess. And he was like, take me to where he is. So we go to his office and my dad is like pounding on his door in this area where you're supposed to be very quiet because it's the auditing area of the church where people are counseling. And Dan opens the door and my dad is like in his face. And he goes, hit me. Hit me. Show me how you hit her. Hit me how you hit her. And he's just like really intense. And Dan's going like this. And he's like, Gene, calm down. Calm down. He's like, I can explain. He's like, hit me how you hit my daughter. And Dan points to the ethics book, which is one of the big books that we follow in Scientology written by L. Ron Hubbard. And he says, I was applying a policy that you know, and we all know, called knowledge reports, where L. Ron Hubbard gives the guy a black eye to get the product, to get the work done, to make his point. And he goes, I was applying policy. And at that moment, Maggie walks in, and Maggie is the executive director of the organization. She's the highest person there, and she's in charge. And she's known my dad since the 70s. She knows my dad really well. And she's like, Gene, sit down, calm down, like get away from my staff member. And she's like protecting Dan. And she gets my dad to sit down and he's just really flustered. And I'm so freaked out. And Maggie says, none of this is anybody's fault except hers. She pulled this in. We use that a lot in Scientology. Like, what did you do to pull that in? Right. And she goes, this girl is, she goes, she's wreaking havoc all over. She's ruining our statistics. She's making, bringing down our staff. And she said, tell your dad why this is all happening. It's your fault. She says, explain it. And she goes, she's entertaining the men of this organization. And she's gotten what's called a non-interbulation order on her, which I did. That happened after the second guy happened at the party. That's why I was telling you about that. Mm-hmm. And a non-interbulation order is a big deal because it's an order on blue paper that they print and put out that says if you get one more report written on you or you violate the terms of anything again, in the next 30 days, you'll be declared a suppressive person. So it's, again, that declared kind of hangs over your head.
Hold on. So you were being punished for the guy assaulting you at the party?
Yes, big time. Because then the second guy in my office came in. And so it was like, oh, there's a pattern here. Like that's the word they use. I'm entertaining the men of the organization. It was on the order. It said that.
Okay.
And then there was my boyfriend, right? So there were 3 guys that I was just floozing around with, apparently. So she says that, and she goes, so explain that to your dad and explain why this is your fault. And my dad looks at me and he goes, is that true? And I said, it's true that I have a non-interbulation order, yes. And I said, but I reported those men. I didn't. That's not how she's saying it happened.
Yeah.
And I said, I reported it, right? Like it wasn't how it's being told. And my dad stands up. He says nothing else. He just stands up. My dad was super tall. And he just silent. He just walked out. And I'm like, where is he going? Like, is he taking me with him? Like, are we leaving? And he gets 3 stairs down and I'm at the top of these marble stairs and he's walking out. And I'm calling him and I'm like, Dad, why are you like, where are you going? Like, what's going on? Dad, I was like, talk to me. And he turns around. It's just the craziest thing. He turns around and he goes, I'm not your dad anymore. He said, don't ever speak to me again. And he said, you need to find your own financial way at this point. I am not your father. He said, don't ever call me again. And he left. And it was the craziest thing. He just left. And I was stunned by that. I really, even to this day, I'm like, I cannot believe that happened. He just left. And you can imagine how hated I was after that, right? Like I created this huge stir. My dad's a really big donor. And even like moments later, I'm like the most, like betrayal of all, right? Like, and so I'm just hysterical. And I went, like, this all happened, I'd say, Shalice, within like about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I went to the bathroom and I started peeing blood. And I was like, something's wrong. I was like, something's really wrong. I mean, don't know that I felt like a lot of pain, but it was like a lot of blood. And I went to one of the staff members and I said, I think I need medical help. Like something's wrong. And she was like, after what you pulled, this stunt, she was like, nobody's going to help you. And my boyfriend showed up for his evening shift. And I said, I'm peeing blood. I hadn't even told him what happened. I just said, I'm peeing blood. I'm urinating blood. I think something's wrong. And he took me to an ER and I didn't like know it looking at myself, but they did. I was very jaundiced. Like my eyes were super yellow. My skin was really yellow. And they separated me from him. And the ER doctor said, I need to ask you, are you using needles? Are you doing drugs? And I said, no, I don't do drugs. And he was like checking my body. And I said, I don't do drugs. And they ended up keeping me for over a week. I had my gallbladder was like really bad and it was I'd have 2 different surgeries. It was producing stones, like way too much. And my boyfriend left and I was just in this hospital and social services showed up because I was 16. And they were like, where are your parents? Like, what's going on? And I just like, I'm in the mind of an adult. I was like, I don't have parents. Like, I live here. I was like, I work, I live here. I don't go to school. And she was like, you're going to need to call a parent. Like, you need to have surgery. Like, we can't consent to any of this. So I called my dad. And this was the first time I had talked to him since he left. And I said, I was bawling and I said, I'm in a hospital. I need to have these surgeries. Like, I don't know what to do. And this lady's here and she's asking me to call you. And he said, I don't care. Don't ever call me again. He said, I don't think you understood. Like, don't ever call me again. And he hung up on me and I just found this out. I got my hospital records a couple years ago for the first time. And I just found this out that they talked to him and he consented to the surgery. Like there's a written note from the surgeon that says spoke with father. He consented to the surgery. So I didn't know that. I always wondered about it, but I didn't know that until I got the paperwork from the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just crazy. And I was in that hospital for over a week and then I was released and they took my pain medications the day I got out. Like they wouldn't let me have them, of course. The church didn't let me. And oh my God, I was in so much pain. And they put me in lower conditions. And I was like on the floor scrubbing things. I had my stitches pop.
Oh
like
my gosh.
it was just like one thing after the next. And it got really bad to the point where I ended up leaving. I went to visit my mom for the first time. She didn't really have anything to do with any of this. She lived in California at the time. She got me a ticket and I went out and got to kind of like recover at her place for a week in San Francisco. And then I went back and they put me back in lower conditions. And I have a half sister. I've not mentioned this. I have a half sister that's 12 years older. We have the same dad, different mom. And she really loved me growing up. She really loved me. And I called her like as a last resort type of thing. I called her when I got back and her name is Sam. And I said, this is what's going on. Like, I'm miserable here. They're treating me really bad. Like, I think I knew I had no friends anymore after what had happened, right? Like I was the enemy. And she showed up at 3 a.m. from Omaha and came and got me. And I just grabbed everything I could. And we drove about the halfway point and she slowed the car down a little bit driving. And she said, I have something I need to tell you. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, I'm a drug addict. And I was like, what? You're a drug addict? Like, what does that mean? I'm not like, I got auditing for taking cough drops. Like, we couldn't take an Advil. I was like,
Yeah.
what did I just step into? Like, what is a drug addict? Because I've not ever been around a drug addict. And I was like, what does that mean, Sam? And she's like, well, I do meth. And I was like, oh no.
Mm.
So we went back and I lived with her in her 1-bedroom apartment with my niece, who is 12 years younger than me. And like a month later, Sam came up to me and she said, if you're going to do drugs, I want you to do it with me. You're not going to do it with anybody else. And I said, I'm never doing drugs. Like, I was still a Scientologist in my mind. I was like, I'm not doing drugs. And she had the foil. She had the drugs on this contraption thing. And she said, you're going to do it with me. And she said, suck when you see smoke. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. Sam was always very pushy. She was kind of bully like. And I said, I'm not doing this. I don't do drugs. I'm not doing this. And she said, I'm not asking. And I did it. And it was unbelievable. It was like the craziest change, like in seconds. I felt very different. And I became a drug addict for the next 2 years with her.
Oh
It
my
was so
gosh.
shameful. And I lost a ton of weight and like just stopped eating and I was just wide awake. It felt like for 2 years. It was absolutely such the opposite of everything I had been stood for, right? And it was just really, really wild until I literally one day I just said, I woke up from crashing and I was at somebody else's house and I was always like woke up in other people's homes, drug addict houses, drug dealers' homes. And I looked in the mirror and my eye sockets were just like black. And I thought, I'm going to die. If I don't get away from this, I'm going to die. And I called our dad and I said, I have to get away from this. I'm a drug addict. I need you to know that. I said, I need some money to get a bus ticket. And I need to get to Kansas City. That's where my mom lives now. She moved back. And I said, I just need some money for that. And he said, I cannot believe that my 3 children are the most degraded beings on planet Earth. And he said, I will not help you.
Oh my
And he said, I'm
God.
really embarrassed.
What do you mean you can't believe it? Bro, like this is pretty much your fault. Like all of this, everything that has led to this moment is because of choices that he made, because of the way that he made you, because of the way that he didn't help you, didn't nurture you, didn't protect you. I mean, how is he so oblivious to the fact that it's his fault that you're in this position?
Well, I think that's such a good point because people, like I said earlier, you don't do the work. But I also do believe there are people out there that don't reflect on their actions, their harmful actions in life. We've all
Yeah.
committed harmful actions, right? But I think there are people out there that it's not me, it's you, right? Like if they're right fighters, that's what we call them on my channel, like people who they're just fighting to be right. They don't take accountability. I mean, I'm all about accountability. It feels so good for me to go, that was something I shouldn't have done. I'm sorry I did that to you. It
Yeah.
feels good to like reflect on things that you made mistakes about. And I think Scientology really prides themselves on that. Like they like Dan, the guy with we call him Fax Man Dan on my channel. I think people like that, they recruit in and it's like that enhances those types of people. It nurtures. It's a great environment for people who are, I guess, what you would call narcissistic, but I don't know that word that well. We don't use it in Scientology and I don't throw it around but I think people who are really already that way, it just amplifies it, right? So I
Mhm.
think my dad was already that way. That's why he had to have power and control over the kids he didn't even want.
Yeah.
How is he going to reflect on the things he's done he never had?
Yeah. I mean, from what you've said, and people can say in the comments their thoughts, but I feel like he has narcissistic tendencies or behaviors because you're right. I mean, within narcissism, you're unable to feel empathy, and that's something that Scientology also amplifies when you're not allowed. But I feel like definitely for you, someone who is well-adjusted and has a child, if your child got into something like drugs after you actively said, "I'm no longer your parent," you would immediately go, "Oh my god, I could have prevented that. They asked for help and I turned my back on them." And it feels so obvious,
Oh
right?
yeah. Totally it does. Yes. Yes. But again, I think I say this a lot. I learned this. I used to, I think, reach, Shalise, I think I really learned that I reached exterior for that masculinity, that masculine attention, um, because he didn't give it. And I used to think, like, in my 20s and 30s, I used to go, "What could I have done different? Like, what could I have, like, climbed the bridge faster? Could I have done this or that to make him,
Mm-mm.
like, feel more for me?" And I realized something, and it really helps. He wasn't withholding any of that. He didn't have it to give. He wasn't withholding love. It wasn't like he was like, "No, I'm gonna punish you." It was he didn't ever have it to offer. It wasn't part of him to be a father in the first place. I don't think he liked us to begin with. He wasn't omitting, you know what I mean? It wasn't
Yeah.
like, "What could I have done different?" He punished me and withheld. No, he really didn't. He just didn't have it to begin with. I think
Mm-hmm.
we're parents. Like, there's nothing my son could ever say or do where I would say, "I'm no longer your mom. Like, sorry, you've disappointed me." That's something really wrong up here. So he didn't have the right equipment to begin with. The
Yeah.
foundation wasn't correct. I think that's
Yeah.
how I try to deal with it nowadays, and I try to help people because a lot of people have parents that are abandon, them like that. And I think it helps to look at it that way. Like, it wasn't ever me. I used to always blame me. And I'd go, what could I have done different? What could I have? And I question myself. There's, I'm not sitting here going like, nothing's my fault. Everything's their fault. I really am a big believer in taking accountability for what you should. But in this case, I can't take accountability at 4.
No.
He should have been my shelter. He should have been my father and provided. And he didn't. He was treated us like animals,
Mm-hmm.
like just fight, 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 harder, meaner. Like, I don't I think that there's something very wrong and broken up here. And
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if that's mental illness. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe he was super mistreated. I don't know.
Well, then what happened when he said no to you? Who did you turn to?
So I had a job. I was working as a hostess at a restaurant, and I was giving my money to my sister for drugs, and I started pocketing and like putting away tips. And it didn't take me long, and I got a bus ticket, and I went to Kansas City, and that's where I met up with my mom. I was 18. That's where I stayed in her house and I got to know my mom. And that was pretty wild too, just like getting to know her. And she had no idea about any of this. She didn't know anything about like my days on staff. She didn't really know anything about, I didn't tell her I was doing drugs. She didn't know any of that. So, she herself was in a very abusive marriage at the time. That's why I left. She actually wrote me a letter in Omaha when I was doing drugs and said, "I hope you're doing well. I'm in a really bad situation with this man, and he's like threatening, and he's an alcoholic." And I was like, maybe I should go there. And it took me a little bit to go, okay, like, I'm going to die if I don't quit doing drugs. And so I put it all together and I thought, I'm going to go help my mom and she can help me. I'll meet my mom, right? Like, so that's what I did. And it was a bad situation. I mean, he got physical and I ended up calling the police and like having to testify and they got divorced. But I got a job and I gave her all my paychecks so we could leave. And we did. We got an apartment together. But that was really interesting getting to know my mom.
Was she still a Scientologist?
She left in 1991. So no, she was not.
And you
My
were
mother
not.
and my sister, right. I stayed in way longer than both of them. My sister left, I think, when she was 14. She joined the Sea Org for like a year and then she left. And then, so that made things awkward too going forward up till I was 38 and left because they were not and I was. So like gatherings and seeing them was very uncomfortable for me because I had to go I had to report everything when I would come back, like how did it go? And then before I would leave, they would train and work with me and coach me to like, don't say this, don't do that, don't talk about Scientology, don't like it's their spotlight is on your life. I've
Yeah.
really had to work on learning boundaries for me. Like my channel in the beginning was messy because I have no boundaries. I never had them. I had my first child sec check, which is a security check at 6 on the e-meter, on the cans is what we call it. And it's almost 100% sexual. Like it's almost 100% like, have you ever touched yourself or another inappropriately? Have you ever thought of your father inappropriately? Do you want to try to have sex with any of your, right? Like any of that. And so all of that was constantly not private my whole life. having a marriage, I would go have a sex check after. What kind of sex did you have? What did you think about? What, I don't want to get too graphic, but they would really go down. So, I think a lot of people either love me or hate me because I really didn't have boundaries in the beginning and I just came out swinging. And I've worked on that a lot, like what should be kept private because I've never kept anything private. I mean, they're always asking you, right? Like every question under the sun, you have to give all that up. You can't say, I'm not comfortable answering that. Next
Mhm.
question. You can't do that. The door's locked and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing for Scientologists. I think boundaries, we're trained to not have them and rewarded to go to the next level, like we talked about in bull bait, right? So every day I learn like things should be kept private. I need to have a private life outside of my channel and, don't get too close to everything and everyone and trust everybody because I just am having to learn those things and navigate that. And I've made a lot of mistakes along the way.
I get that. It's something that I've learned since having this channel because same with Mormonism, it's not nearly as intense as Scientology, but you're expected to go and do confessionals with the bishop anytime you quote sin or someone tells the bishop that you've sinned. You have to go in and give details. Depending on the bishop, he may ask very explicit details or not. It's kind of bishop roulette. But I learned from this channel that I was a chronic oversharer because of that. Because you're
Wow.
supposed to just lay it all out there and then they give you the punishment or the slap on the wrist or say, "Okay, you are
Yes.
worthy." And it's just part of life and it is the most traumatizing, humiliating, horrifying thing to go in, especially as a kid, and tell this old
Yes.
man alone in a room these sexual things that you've been doing, even if it's just kissing for too long. And
Yeah.
it's mortifying is the best word I could say to describe it as a child and even as a teenager, as an adult. I mean, that's the whole reason I left the Mormon church is because of a bishop that sent me into a spiral that sent me into researching the church, which made me realize it was all fake. So I know the feeling and I know the overshare thing, and it is hard to be like, what's a normal amount to vent to a friend or to tell
Yes.
somebody or even the world. So, so
Yes.
you were
I
not
I just wanna say I'm
yeah.
really sorry you had to go through
Oh,
that. That's
thank you.
horrible. I definitely understand. And just to say now, yeah, I now will try to create a relationship and put value on it, and then I'll say something and end the call or whatever it is and go, "Should I have said that?" Like, I don't know. I feel very like I don't know what's appropriate or
Yeah.
proper etiquette, right? Like to share
Yeah.
you share everything and then you get burned. So I'm just wanted to say I'm sorry that's happened to you. It's horrible, but I really understand.
It also depends on who you're talking to because you start to learn that there are
Yeah.
different scenarios for different people and not all friends can be trusted and who's a friend who really
Yeah.
has your back and who's a friend who's willing to hold space for you to vent and who's the friend who if you vent to it might be too overstimulating for them because of what they got going in their own life and you need to
Yes.
it's
Yes,
it's
being
very
considerate.
nuanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and I just really want to make friends. I'd love to have some female friends that I can lean into and they can share with me, but again, that's a fine line, and I think it needs to happen organically, and I've jumped too much into, like, people who watch the channel, and they're like
Sure.
I've had people email me and go, "Here's a list of bullet points as to why, like, we should be friends, and we have everything in common," and I'm like,
They're applying to be your
"See, the problem is."
friend. That's really
Yes,
sweet.
and it's I love it. I know, but I'm like, "You know me, but I don't know you," and it makes me nervous, and I feel like I've made some mistakes there, and,
Yeah. Start with meetup groups. That's
I
a good
just
way to just in
done
person,
that,
catch the
yeah.
vibe with somebody.
Yes, we've done a ton of those actually, and they've worked out great. I love meeting the people from my channel, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things I've had to teach myself. This will happen in time. This will happen organically. Like, don't force or rush anything, right?
Yeah.
But it's again, you have to kind of like learn from that, and that's all. So I'm glad you get that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. So we are nearing the end of this episode. Real quick though, to button it up, because I know that you left Scientology, but then you rejoined and then you married a Scientologist. So you were so close to being out, but then you were sucked back in. Can you give us a little bit of a summary of how that happened? And then we'll get into it in more depth in the second episode.
Just so I came back from doing the drugs, and Dan who was my close friend still, he had me come into the church and apologize for what he had done and said, "I'd like you to come back on staff. I really miss you." And I did not end up coming on staff. I said, I have 2 jobs. Like, I'm really liking my freedom. I had an apartment at that point. I was really like proud of where I had made it to, I was drug free and but I volunteer staffed for him, and that is where I met my husband, and I met him when he was 9. He never went to school. So his mom was on staff and she would bring him every day and I would see him every day. He'd sit outside my office for years. And I was 14 and he was 9. And then I saw him again at that point. He was much older. He was 19 when I finally saw him again. And yeah, I think he had just turned 19. And I said, "Michael?" And we hit it off immediately and got married pretty quickly and had our son. And we were married for almost 10 years. So it just, again, he was raised in Scientology and had some horrific things happen to him that have to this day. He's in his late 30s and he has super anxiety and trouble. And so that marriage just didn't work out, but he's still a close friend and I love him and I support him. And I've always said, if you need help or, you can always call me, or if you need to come stay here, you can. He really has a tough time, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want me to skip real quick to just, I was watched the Leah Remini show finally, but I don't know if you want
Right.
to get to that. I don't know if we have to wrap this up. I mean, there's kind of a whole thing to that and how long it took me to watch it, but I did
Yeah.
see that. And I was married to my husband, Jeff, at the time. And Jeff was not a Scientologist. He was a Shriner and a Mason. And he was much older than me. I seem to have issues with that. I say on my channel, I like them extra crispy. Jeff was 27 years older than me. Gee, I wonder why. Um, I had such a stable childhood. I don't know where that comes from. Yeah. So I ended up finding out some things about that in that marriage, just that he was super, super controlling, very controlling guy anyway, but he was just in this little like secret, they called it a luxury gentleman's organization that I ended up going through his computer and finding out about. And he was I don't know if you ever saw the movie Eyes Wide Shut. That's very much what I feel like this cult was based on. It's just
Whoa.
very much that, just a lot of I call it just like a sex trafficking cult is what I would call it, just based on what I found. And I found a lot and did a lot of deep dives and ended up getting like my life threatened and things like that. The more I found out, it was very scary. And he got more and more controlling. He took my car keys from me. Like, I didn't have any money left. I sold my house. It was by design, I think. But
Yeah.
those are things I'm working through still on my channel. Like, I'm sure he chose me because I probably seemed like, oh, she's in a cult. This is an easy one to manipulate. Or I'm not sure. Honestly, Shalice, I'm still working through that with my whole crowd of people. But it was a very confusing time because I was trying to balance. You can't look for yourself in Scientology. You can't Google anything. It's a really big deal. They question you on that all the time. Have you looked at anything? Have you talked to anyone? Have you talked to an attorney, a mental health professional? Like, they ask those questions on the regular. So it was hard for me to do that and still pretend to be a Scientologist and smile through it and fake it, and while balancing what I knew about Jeff at the time was
Mhm.
really quite frightening, and I felt like I was really tangled and stuck in those situations of trying to keep my Scientology family and people please there and stay off the cans, not get audited, because I would have been found out. I was trying to hide all of those things from Scientology, the jester stuff, but also just that I'm questioning this religion, that
Mhm.
I was raised in. I have questions now and I can't
Yeah.
turn to them and I can't tell them. So it was really scary to try to navigate that.
And that's why we're gonna do a whole episode on it.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that.
So let's wrap up this episode with. Oh, wait, first of all, can you just show one of those pieces of literature or the pamphlets of the jester, just so people can visually see what's coming?
Yeah. So I took some things I shouldn't have, but I talk about this a lot on my channel because they're very, if you Google them, you can't find hardly anything. Like, they've been around over 100 years. they're super secretive. What am I doing? Oh, I can't see myself on the camera there.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
there's this book. There's this book, and this creepy demon is like something that they worship. It's called a billiken. But like there's this creepy thing that might haunt your dreams. And then this is their saying when they leave a party. I'm a jester. What I see here, what I hear here shall stay here when I leave here. And again, there's those creepy, weird little things. They have like, here's the front of the book, but it says Royal Order of Jesters and like this creepy artwork. Doesn't that make you think of like Eyes Wide Shut right there with the masks? And
Mhm.
they have different what they call courts. And each court is in a different city. And this one is Court 54. It's called the President's Court because Harry Truman was a jester.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah. Apparently Gerald Ford was too.
so that's what we have to look forward to. Let's pop off with a Linda Listen moment.
Yes. So, Linda, listen, I would say something like, I'm learning who I am for the first time, and it's so exciting. And I just would want, I love and appreciate people who question things. And I think I teach my son that all the time. I learned that from George Carlin. Question everything, question authority, question teachers, question police, question everything. And so if I had to leave with that and end with that, I would just say it's important because I find myself daily going, is that me or is that Scientology?
Mhm.
And I just want people to feel like they can check in with themselves and they have a choice always.
Yep. Yeah, I
I don't want
agree.
people to feel choiceless.
That's great. Great advice for sure, because you can't truly find that self-sovereignty until you have the awareness that you don't have it in the first place. So
Correct.
that's amazing. Where can everybody find you and support you?
So my channel is called I didn't know what to title it. I didn't know if I should go with like a Scientology term, but I thought I don't want to talk about Scientology every day. First of all, I couldn't do it. I can't. Yeah, it's too traumatic. But um I thought I just want to relate to people. I really want to relate to the outside world. I never got a chance to do that. I'd like to meet people on a real level and make them feel seen and heard. And so I thought I want to be relatable. And so it's called Relatable Reese. Very similar, just a beautiful crowd of mainly women, but some really cool guys. And we talk about life and just what we learn coming out of this journey together. And there's so many people that have similar backgrounds of just abuse or high control situations. And again, I'm a huge advocate for those people.
Mhm.
And I want them to have a place where they can come and feel seen. You know, it's not for everyone because I call it like we do what's called roll call. Like I really, really engage with my audience. I rarely have a topic and I just come on and I'm like, hey, it's everybody. I just name everybody off and, they'll share what's going on with them. And it's a lot of people say it's like having coffee with someone. We just talk into the deeps of leaving that cult or just everyday life, having children, anything, marriages,
Yeah,
relationships.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I
What
love it.
about Instagram? Do you have an Instagram?
Oh, yeah. I do. I think it's under Relatable Reese. There's a Relatable Reese Instagram. Yeah, that's
All
right.
right.
I guess I have a TikTok too.
And
I forgot. I
TikTok.
have a friend that's doing that for me. Yeah, it's same thing. It's like relatable_Reese. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks for asking. I
perfect.
forgot about it.
You're welcome. We'll list all of those in the description. Do you have any other final thoughts before we go?
I just really, I think, thank you for letting me use my voice here. I always say on my channel, YouTube is small. I want to go on a lot of platforms and just I think all of the ex-Scientologists, all the people anybody who is in a cult, it's important to use your voice. It's kind of like the Linda Listen thing I was just saying, like use that voice.
Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful thing that you platform people to be able to come and share a story in a very safe space. And I felt very safe and comfortable here. And I
Good.
appreciate you allowing me to do that. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. That's my top priority is trying to make people feel safe and supported and not further exploited
I can
and
tell.
also try to relate in my own way with my own
Yeah.
experiences and show that I can
Yes.
understand. And so that's great. I'm so glad you came on today and I'm so looking forward to our next episode here in the next few minutes.
Me too.
So, guys, if you are currently watching, plan for episode 2 to come out maybe the next day or a couple days later. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss it and the bell. And leave those words of encouragement down below for Reese. It means so much to us that she's willing to come on and be vulnerable and share with us. And I know your goal, Reese, is to help people see themselves in your own story and learn from you. So we appreciate you being open about everything. And
Yeah.
if you guys want to support the channel, we do have channel memberships now with YouTube specific perks that you can check out. And even on our live streams, we had some people gifting memberships, which was so nice and amazing. So that's an option too if
Oh,
you
that's
want to
nice.
support. Otherwise, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/cults2consciousness. We have some merch at cults2consciousness.com. We have a clips channel. If you want shorter versions of our guest stories, you can head over there. And that's it. If you like this video, I'll link 2 more down here below. Definitely some Scientology videos. We have a whole playlist you're going to want to check out. And until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious, and be well.